Now it is time for Compas on the NFL beat.
Um,
Gilbert, obviously, right now, a position that kind of has been devalued. You've heard Josh Jacobs speak about it. Austin Eckler had requested to speak to other teams. You Dalvin Cook has been released by the Vikings. Derrick Henry had gotten threatened by the Titans about a pay cut or he'd be cut. But Gilbert, right now, who are your top 5 running backs?
yeah, first of all, it's not a good place to be for a veteran running back because now they're just gonna just draft them higher and younger. We saw Jamar Gibbs and Bijan
Supposedly,
Robinson.
Jamar Gibbs is turning heads in the Lions.
Yeah, so for these young, I mean, older heads, it's not doing well. But I'm glad we're doing these rankings. We're gonna maybe discuss little running backs after
You
that.
know what? Start off with number 5.
Okay. Are we gonna just do mine and then yours?
We can do 1-1 again like we did last time.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we'll
All
get
right,
confused people.
you go at number 5.
But yeah, my fifth running back is and I want Derrick Henry. And let me just say this: he's a great running back. Looking at his numbers last year, I'm like, this guy might not have a drop off, but when you're having so many miles on the tires, eventually he's gonna have a drop off. And then you're playing on a bad team like the Titans. That's why I have Henry at fifth. I'm doing these rankings like boxers because they also get old pretty fast. Like, what have you done? And also, what are you gonna do come up the season? So that's why I got Henry fifth. But people don't like that.
I went with Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor will have a back. I think he'll have a bounce back
You're
season.
looking ahead too. Okay, I like
Yeah,
the
so I like
expanded.
to look ahead a little bit too. I think Jonathan Taylor just went through a bad season with bad coaching, with some weird stuff going on with the offensive line. I think Shane Steichen will get him in the correct position to get going this year. The Colts have some weapons on offense. Their offensive line should be healthy and ready to go. So I think Jonathan Taylor will bounce back, and I'm not saying he's going to have those robotic numbers that he had 2 years ago,
Yeah,
but I think he
yeah.
will have a solid season, a bounce back year in 2023.
See, I think I penalized Jonathan Taylor for that bad season last year, and I think I had him
It was
seventh in
really
my.
bad.
It was. That's why I'm like. But then you look at the body of work. I'm like, he's been pretty good. So maybe it could be a bounce back. You mentioned the coaching staff, but I did not have him in my top five. That's why. But number four, this is the one that had a lot of controversy. By the way, it's kind of similar to the one I had at Sports Illustrated. And let me tell you why. Again, my rank is I'm looking ahead and I'm looking a little backwards. Tony Pollard had a big breakout season in 2022. If you look at even all the analytics number, like this guy's explosive. He's a good blocker. He helps you out as a pass catcher. But that's why I have Tony Pollard number four for the Cowboys. And people lost their mind. He's a young running back. And then Fernando, I don't know, maybe I give him too much credit for this, but I saw this guy in person for that Chargers game. I'm like, this guy's explosive. Like, and that's what they lost with Zeke Elliott. And some of these older running backs don't have that. You find a hole, you could turn that thing into 60 yards right away. And then you could do more, be a versatile back. And he's pretty young and he doesn't have wear and tear on the tires, like because he was behind Zeke for so many years. Tony Pollard, number four, I think is going to keep going up and prove me right come 2023.
I'm gonna go Josh Jacobs. I thought he had a really good season last year. I know that I know there's not a lot of love, I think, between him and his head coach. He played him in the Hall of Fame game. That obviously is a little disrespectful because nobody really plays in the Hall of Fame game. So Josh Jacobs, I thought, took that. He ran with it. He ran angry. My question is, will he be frustrated enough to demand a new contract or a trade and sit? Because he suppose he wants to bring value back to the running back position. He wants them to earn their fair share. Is he willing to sit? I don't know. Is he willing to do anything about it? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But I think he's talented. I thought he had a really good year last year. I think both games against the Chargers that I saw him, he really just ran them over, and he did he did a really good job as the running back, obviously, and I don't think Josh McDaniels was counting. I know Josh McDaniels said, "Oh yeah, he did well," but I don't think they were counting on his production last year. It's kind of a shame that the Raiders didn't do better because with his production and with having Devontae Adams and the weapons that they did, they should have been better. But I do think Josh Jacobs is one of the better backs in the NFL, though.
Yeah, we've seen this movie where like a guy wants to stand up and earn more for the position, but it's always like they're doing it alone. Like the only way it's gonna work if you do it together, and it's already kind of a bad look. With I think Josh Jacobs signed his franchise tag, and Tony
Yeah.
Pollard did too.
Well, Tony
Not
Pollard, they said
Barkley.
he was thinking about sitting,
Not,
and then he's like, "Oh crap! Like Dalvin Cook's about to get cut, so
that's
Derrick
the
Henry. Oh
thing.
yeah,
Like,
no, I bet I might as well just
and
sign with him."
he hasn't gotten his money yet. He wasn't a
No,
first round pick. So, yeah, for me, I go number 3, Josh Jacobs. I thought what he did last year was a really great year, and but he wasn't a 1 year wonder. If you look at it, like he had some like decent years
yeah.
before. He was making 1,000 yard seasons. He wasn't like on the scene, but now it's like okay, you put that together. I'm just worried about him getting run to the ground because they like to really run that rock with Josh McDaniels, and he led the league in carries last year. If he does that again, you're gonna become a free agent. It's like, oh, that's really gonna hurt you. But Josh Jacobs number 3.
Nick Chubb, number 3. Kareem Hunt, is he's still on the Browns?
No, he's a free agent.
He's a free agent. Oh shoot. Well, this is now the Nick Chubb show. Can Nick Chubb handle that all on his own? And I know people are going to give me flack for that one, but can he handle it on his own? He's been in a 2-back system since he got in. Um, I'm interested to see, but I think with Deshaun Watson, with Amari Cooper, with that offense, and who knows, maybe they might be adding DeAndre Hopkins. I know that DeAndre and Deshaun have talked about maybe getting back together, but I think with all those weapons, I think that'll open things up for Nick Chubb. Obviously, the Browns, I think, have a better offensive line than they have a good offensive line. So I put Nick Chubb third.
Going off of that, for me, Nick Chubb is number 2. I like to really like give a lot of credit to the all around running backs, but this guy's a old school bruiser, Nick Chubb, and same thing with Derrick Henry. And there's similar play styles, but Chubb is younger, and he's got a lot of carries also as well. But you look at his numbers the last 3 or 4 years, like this guy's been dominant. Last year was pretty good too. So if you want somebody who's going to just be, you need a short yard situation or even take one off for 30, 40 yards, Nick Chubb is your guy. I really like watching him play. Number 2.
I have Derrick Henry as my number 2. Why? Because with almost no good receivers on the Titans, no, like their offense just a dud. I think they're gonna ask Nick. I think this is gonna be the last year that Derrick Henry is still Derrick Henry. I think he'll have another big year, but I think that's it. I don't think his body's gonna be able to take much more of this. I'd be surprised if his body could take much more of this, but I think this is the last year where he has another big year, carries that team. But I think it's starting to wear him down a little bit. And but I still think he'll have another not a huge season, but I think he has another good season.
Yeah, he had a pretty good season last year, and he was already up there with the miles on those legs there. So maybe you're
I
right.
mean,
Maybe
remember that Chiefs game? They almost beat the Chiefs in Kansas City, but Malik Willis couldn't even complete a damn pass. So
oh yeah,
obviously, that's what really kind of screwed them. And they don't have any receivers. You lost AJ Brown. You lost that dude
yeah.
that went to the Jets. I can't remember his name right now. But I
Corey
mean,
Davis.
yeah. Corey Davis. You lost some weapons, and it's like, okay, like you haven't even added to it. So, but I mean, yeah, I have
That's what makes them
Derrick Henry.
special. Like you could stack the box because they don't have any weapons, they don't have any quarterbacks, and he's still gonna run for the first down. So that's what makes Derrick Henry special. Maybe I'm knocking him too much for like the age coming up soon, but he's still really good.
And you're number 1.
Yes, I think we're the same here, and it's
Yep.
because all around threat and
I thought we
maybe
were gonna have a different number 1, to be honest.
it's just like he could do so much. And it's Christian
Yep.
McCaffrey. And then when you put him with the 49ers system, and then the way, like, I was a little hesitant about this trade because if you look at Christian McCaffrey's prior 2 years, he was banged up. A lot of injuries. Okay, they finally got to him. He can't do what he could do. He goes to 49ers. He's back to being the old CMC receiver, running back, blocker. And when I talked about receiver, like, you think Austin Eckler's really good receiver? Like CMC has a different level. Like, this guy's could be a legit wide receiver. You put him anywhere you want, outside
Slant
slot,
routes, out routes. He could
whatever you
do,
want.
yeah, yeah.
And then he has it now with guys. You have to be in the same team with Debo and Kittle. Like the possibilities are endless there. So I think he really reclaimed his top spot. And that trade's looking pretty good for the 49ers. But I still go back to like you got to win the Super Bowl for it to be legit.
I agree with you. CMC he does so much. He can get you 100 yards rushing and 100 yards receiving, score 2 touchdowns, and you're like, oh wow. So, but I think what the 49ers are going to try and do is get higher production, but limit his touches in a sense.
Yeah.
Like and I think they're going to be able to do that, especially because the the Steelers draft and develop receivers very well. Every team has something where they do very well. The 49ers they can get running backs, they develop them, and they do very well, and they're able to do that. So
Yeah.
I think the 49ers will try and do something like that with him. But I do think that he is the best running back right now in the NFL, especially like you said, last 2 years injured, and now he's back at it. But why do you? I mean, I kind of have my theory on why I feel like the running back position is devalued, but I think it goes back to what you said at the beginning, that you can go and get younger guys that are going to do it. They're going to do it for 5 years, and then once their contracts are up, or 4 or 5 years, once their contract is up, boom, okay, let's go to the next thing and let's go get new ones, and you kind of do that spinning wheel. I mean, I don't know how you see it, but that's kind of the
Yeah.
way I
But
I see it as well.
running backs were gaining a little more like I guess, they were gaining some more value with the trend nowadays. Like the Vic Fangio defense really like took off like a wildfire. It's all about limiting the plays on the field. Like Staley runs the same thing. So what offenses did was like counter. Well, just run the football a lot. Just dump it off and just get our easy yards and like do the long game. So there was a comeback for the running back. That's why Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, these guys were having breakout seasons. But then the owners, the GMs, they got smart again. Well, instead of like going for a fourth rounder, a fifth rounder, they just kind of like go to the first rounder or second rounder because they're still going to be cheaper than the guy looking for the second contract. Like Bijan Robinson, could already be a top 10 running back, and he's on his rookie contract. So yeah, they're going to spend more on the draft capital, but they're still not paying as much as whatever Saquon wants. So that's kind of like the adjustment. So running backs are showing their value again in this new kind of football, but they found a way to beat it by just getting a second or first round pick. Like Kenneth Walker and Brees Hall, they were second round picks. They were great. So the draft is always going to hurt the running backs. And I think you mentioned it one time, Fernando, like, just do something separately for these running backs to pay them that won't affect the salary cap or whatever it is, because it's getting crazy at this point, or ridiculous for another word. But eventually you got to
Might
figure
get
something
worse.
out. It might get worse, and it hasn't helped out. And like I love Barkley, but he's had injury issues. He's not as good as CMC. For him to kind of be the one leading the charge, I don't think he's gonna get 12, $14 million what he was trying to get. Jacobs, I don't see it either. Like if Jacobs, Pollard, and Barkley just say all three of them, let's not sign any contracts unless it's a multi-year deal and the bar is raised again. But players all have to think about themselves, and that's not a bad thing. You have to figure out you got to get your own money. So it's hard to be on the same page, but that's the only way I see it, if they kind of just stand up together and make change.
Am I crazy to think that the running backs kind of had their time and now it's the time of the quarterback? Like the 90s and 2000s were all about running backs. Sean Alexander, LT. Um, I mean, you had Emmett Smith. Like you had so many good running backs around that era. And I thought it was all about the running backs, that all of a sudden it kind of feels like everything shifted and now it's not their time anymore. Like, do you think any running back could get 30 touchdowns like LT did that one and get 1,800? No, he had 2,200 total yards, and he had I think he had 33 total touchdowns.
Yeah.
It it's hard to put a
Yeah,
value
because
on that. And
even though
go
you're
ahead.
running more to counter for the down the
Yeah,
field stuff, you still got to pass the ball pretty heavy. So it's tough, and I think they're kind of making a comeback, because we were all shocked that Jamar Gibbs went top 12, Bijan Robinson went number 8, and we were all spending the whole offseason talking about they're not worth it to be a first round pick, and they
yeah.
go that high. I think there's like a little shift there, but they're still not as valued as like those guys you mentioned in that kind of period of the NFL.
But it's crazy because I don't know what it is, dude. But I remember LT like would get about 35 to 40 touches a game, and he'd be fine. He would do it during the whole season, and now it's like these guys get 15 to 20 carries and they're like banged up and they're injured and they're there. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's maybe like, because I mean, I think we're at the point right now where most athletes are taking care of their bodies a lot better than those guys were. I mean, we heard about Jordan eating pizza, smoking cigars, doing all this.
Yeah.
And you hear about Kobe, like, oh, professional chef, like fish and chicken and maybe a steak here and there, but no alcohol during the season. And like, you hear these different things. And because I remember being a kid and listening, and LT said when he first came into the league, first thing he did was got on the phone with Emmett Smith and asked him, what do I have to do to have a longer shelf life? You have to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, call Jim Brown, call all the running backs. That's why I guess when Herbert first came in, I was so fixated on, have you reached out to other quarterbacks? Have you reached out and gotten advice from other guys? And he's kind of like, no, no. And I'm not saying that's bad or that's good, but it's like I felt like when LT said, "Oh, I came in and I asked almost every single Barry Sanders, I asked all these guys, like, what did you guys do to be great?" Like, I kind of feel like that should be, that's what this generation I think is missing. And I'm not trying to go into a generational thing or whatever, but I'm just saying I just feel like the running backs just aren't the way they were, where it's like they were bell cows. Like you remember Barry Sanders carried the Lions. I just feel like you don't kind of get that anymore, which is, I mean, it's just the way everything's shifting in the NFL. Like, you pay offensive linemen to block for your quarterback, not to open up holes for the running back. In like, obviously you get him for both, but you'd rather him protect your quarterback. I don't know if that's fair for me to say, but I that's just the way I kind of see this.
Yeah, and then like teams are smart. They have a bunch of like advanced stats and like you obviously got the tape out there. And like a guy like Dalvin Cook, like he was making too much money, even though he had 1,000 yards rushing. He was just missing holes that time. He wasn't having 4 to 8 yards. Sorry, 4.8 yards per carry. It's like in the three. So like teams really care for that. But like you're saying, man, like maybe the next generation, like Bijan Robinson, like if he goes off, like then it's okay. Maybe kind of have the trend. But right now, like say you try to rank Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, and Barkley, like they're not gonna be like what top 30 players in the NFL, right? Like you rank quarterbacks, you rank edge rushers, and you rank wide receivers, and they're kind of like maybe in that 4th, 5th category. So it's tough. But say a guy like Bijan, like I mentioned, man, like you need that one, like Sauce Gardner for the cornerbacks, like what he did in year one
Yeah.
was like, okay, we want to watch cornerbacks, and like Surtain's pretty good too. But the running back, you're kind of like, okay, we need that super striker. CMC, he's great, but he's been around, right? You need something new to make it
Yeah.
flashy.
So Gilbert's putting all the pressure on the future of the running back position on
Yes.
Bijan Robinson and Gibbs. So
Yeah. The top
you
12
guys
running
better,
backs, man. That's
yeah,
rare nowadays too. We were all surprised.
yeah. No, I completely agree with you.